Awesome. So welcome to the osteopathic medicine panel. This evening, we have three institutions here with us, NYIT COM, LECOM, and PCOM, and they will each introduce the representative from the institutions will introduce themselves and also their institution. And so we're hope that this evening brings good information. Please utilize the chat throughout the presentation to pose any questions, ask any questions as we go through. And yes, there'll be a question and answer time at the end. So I am going to go ahead and toss it over to our first presenter, Steve Dockery from NYIT.
Thanks very much. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Doherty. I'm the Director of Admissions at NYIT COM. Great to be with you. Great to be looking towards starting a new cycle, hopefully for all of you. I have a set of slides that I'd like to use to run through. It's a good way to kind of get the information across and still leave a lot of time for questions. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen right now. Can someone give me a thumbs up if you can see this? All right. Technology is wonderful. So I like to start out just real briefly with who and what we are. First of all, NYIT COM is a one medical school, two campuses, two locations. Our Long Island location was the first medical school in New York State. Faculty, staff, and students and alum have helped transform the field of medicine for over 40 years. We're only 24 miles from Manhattan, so great location. And we feel we provide a wealth of world-class training in leading urban and suburban hospitals and healthcare facilities throughout the tri-state region. Our second location is a newer location located in Jonesboro, Arkansas. It's on the campus of Arkansas State University, so another campus-based program. It is the first osteopathic medical school established in the state of Arkansas. We felt that there was a need to provide healthcare for rural and underserved populations. As we all know, there's a real dearth of providers in that area. Our campus is located in northeastern Arkansas on the campus of ASU. As I said, it's about an hour from Memphis, Tennessee. I usually fly into Memphis when I'm visiting campus.
Steve, really quickly, I didn't want to interrupt you mid-sentence, but we can see your dual screen.
Okay.
Is that okay with you? We can see, like, I'm not sure if you wanted to only
be in the presenter mode, but
yeah. So if you go up to the display settings, maybe if you
good the way it is.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. So, we're often asked about the difference between the DOs and the MDs. Basically, they both complete 4 years of medical education, pass a comparable exams to obtain state licensure, practice in fully accredited licensed healthcare facilities, and they practice medicine in a variety of specialties. Our pre-clerkship coursework consists of case-based learning, doctoring skills, osteopathic, manipulative medicine, anatomy and neuroanatomy. We teach asynchronous interactive lecture sessions. Our clinical training takes place in years 3 and 4. In year 3, you'll go through your core rotations, which are listed here: internal medicine, ped surg, OBGYN, family medicine, emergency medicine, and psych. And in year 4, the majority of your time will be spent rotating through elective training, exploring the specialty that you may be interested in if you've decided on it, and really preparing for residency. This is last year's results. I'm happy to really kick off by saying that we have our 2023 results in, and in 2023, we actually have 100% match both in New York and in Jonesboro. But in 2022, this is our slide that we have available now. 99.5% match, 151 hospitals, 35 states, 61% in New York, and 42% in Delta. Those are our target areas, so we're really pleased with that. Primary care is a big focus for our students. Many of them are interested in primary care, so you can see that they've chosen to match in those specialties, and a variety of other specialties, as you see here on the screen. In addition to doing the DO, and this is one of the things I love about our program, there are opportunities to blend in additional dimension to your training. So we have combined programs, dual degree programs in academic medicine, scholars program, a DO MS degree in that case, and we also have a DO PhD in medical and biological sciences. We have concurrent programs which can be accomplished in the context of the 4 years of medical school. So they're articulated in a real careful way to allow you to cover your medical school curriculum and cover the curriculum of the concurrent degree program as well. An MBA concurrently, an MS in clinical nutrition, an MS in medical healthcare simulation. Well, it's a very cool degree. As many of you know, SIM has become a major part of medical education, and this would be a great dimension to add to your own preparation if you're interested in that area. A concurrent MPH, and we have a certificate in global health. The graduate program in the Arkansas campus is an MS in biomedical sciences. Beyond the classroom, the New York campus and the Arkansas campus, distinctive but fully realized student life opportunities, culture of wellness here on our campus in New York, where I am, the healing path. There's a lot of activity, walking and running. Our students and our faculty get together every Tuesday morning to do a walk and a run. It's a great team building exercise as well. That's the Fit Physicians program. We have a real strong program to support you and your wellness while you're in school. 55 organizations here in New York on our campus, student-run clinics in Harlem on campus, and in Suffolk County, a pediatrics-focused clinic. In the Arkansas campus, you can see the van here. This is called our Delta Caravan. It leaves from campus with students and faculty and goes out to outlying communities that are without care and delivers basic level care for them, and the students are actively involved in that. And the Touch program, translating osteopathic understanding into the community health. For research, top level research, intensive faculty, grants from National Science, NIH, American Heart Association, a lot of work being done on diabetes, and the Center for Biomedical Innovation. We have a brand new building being developed here it's not a brand new building, it's being completely renovated to accommodate the Center for Biomedical Innovation, using AI, virtual reality, robotics, and some of the new technologies in 3D and imaging. This is our class profile from last year's class. We dealt with an applicant pool of more than 9,000 students. For those that entered, their average cumulative GPA was 369, average science GPA 362, average MCAT 506.2. In Long Island, our first year enrollment is 295, Jonesboro 115. The admissions process pretty much straightforward. I'm sure you'll all look into this, but we work through the ACOM. All of the documentation is submitted through ACOMAS and personal statement, letters of recommendation. Our deadline for next cycle is March 1st for the primary application. We also then will ask you to fill out a supplemental application, which is due on March 8th. That's more specific to our school in particular in 2024. Our office is really committed to working closely, even though we have a big entering class and a large number of applicants. Our team really values the opportunity to interact with applicants. So we hope we can build that in and deliver that kind of service to you throughout the process. Requirements: need a bachelor's degree, must be a citizen or a permanent resident. These are our prereqs, quite similar, I think, to most of the schools that you'll be looking into. MCAT is recommended no later than September. We do accept up to January 2024, with January 2020 being the out date for scores. In addition to the core prerequisites, we love it if you have biochem, genetics, psych, and some social sciences and a statistics course. They'll help you a lot in the curriculum. Selection factors, it's not just metrics, especially for us. We really look deeply and in a holistic way. So all of those so-called core competencies that you guys all, I think, embody already are very important in our consideration, and you can see them here. I would say for us, and typical of the DO schools, we love it if you can have an opportunity to go out and scribe or shadow an osteopathic physician to give you greater insight into that practice, service and volunteerism, all the things that you're well aware of and have, I'm sure, been working on throughout your career at JHU. And that's it. So I thank you all so much for your attention, and I look forward to some questions later on.
Thank you, Steve. Next would be Danielle from PCOM.
Hey everybody, my name is Danielle Roth. I am the Assistant Director of Admissions Communications, which is a mouthful, but I work at our Philly campus for PCOM, and I will go ahead and share a couple more slides with you. Everyone see my screen? Nods, thumbs up. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, awesome. Well, again, I am from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, PCOM, PCOM, whatever you want to call us. We are there in Philly and a couple other places as well. So we were founded in 1899. We are the third oldest osteopathic school, and we have opened 2 other campuses down in Georgia. We have our Sewanee, Georgia campus, which opened in 2005. And most recently in 2019, we opened a campus in a little town called Moultrie, which has the mission of serving the rural Georgia population. So we do have 3 campuses now. And as you will see with my colleagues here, the whole DO approach really does focus on total wellness, the whole person, honing in on mind, body, and spirit. At PCOM, we are strictly a graduate professional school. So we do have our DO program along with several other health profession programs, physician assistant studies. We have pharmacy at our Georgia campus. We have forensic medicine, several psychology programs, just to name a few. So it's a great community of folks who have found their passion in the health sciences and are ready for that next degree. So just some fun facts about the DO profession. If you are a little bit unfamiliar, I'm not going to read all of these to you, but generally speaking, about 1/4 of students in medical school right now are in DO programs. So we will probably see that continue to increase as we do have more DO schools opening and more interest and awareness of the profession. As of now, all of the residency programs have merged. And so spots that maybe originally had been reserved for MD students or originally reserved for DO students have now merged, and they are accepting all medical students. And again, just this dramatic increase in the DO profession, the population has grown 63% in the last decade. A little bit more about PCOM specifically. It is a great place to be in Philadelphia. It is such a vibrant healthcare community. There are many, many hospitals and great access to the people in those hospitals. If you're in our Sewanee campus, that's just outside of Atlanta, about 40 minutes. And so that's more of a suburban feel to it. And then again, our Moultrie campus is very rural for students who have an interest in serving underserved populations in a rural community. We've got about 60 student organizations, which all have a community service aspect. We do have folks that participate in the club, for example, is called PCOM Hearts, where we have student-run clinics in the community and students can go participate, get to know people in their community that they may be serving in their rotations. So it's just an opportunity students really like to go out and get involved in the community. Some exciting recent data to share. We did have 100% match this past year for our class of 2023, which is wonderful. Our full match list can be found on our website if you're interested in looking into that. But again, something we are certainly proud of and excited for our recent or our future graduates for this year. Another area we like to emphasize is what we call interprofessional education. So because we are a graduate community with multiple programs, about once a quarter, we will have students from our DO program, physician assistant program, and some of our psychology programs get together for a case study and look at it through their different lenses and come together for a resolution to help a patient. This is something that students really enjoy. Sometimes when you're in that med school program, it's easy to get tunnel vision and be hyper-focused, which of course you want to be, but this is a nice opportunity for students to get to know other students they may not have met otherwise and practice working in an interprofessional setting like you would once you're out working in a hospital or practice. A little bit more about our admissions process. Stephen talked about this a little bit already, but certainly admissions committees are going to be taking a look at those quantitative measures. So prerequisite coursework beyond the prerequisite. So those higher level science classes, genetics, pharmacology, what have you. Certainly your GPAs are important, your MCAT scores, and how much science coursework you have completed. Other factors that admissions committees are going to take a look at: your personal statement. Why is it that you want to be a physician? Particularly, why do you want to become a physician through that institution? Your letters of recommendation. Who are you asking to be your letter writers? Are they really the best folks who could speak highly of you and speak to your academic ability? Certainly experiences in healthcare. All of these experiences are going to be valuable in helping you understand not only why you want to be in healthcare, but why specifically you want to be a physician. Have you seen physical therapists at work? Have you seen pharmacy techs? Of all the ways that you can help people, how do you know that being a physician is the way that you want to do that? And then most schools will have that final interview as part of their admissions process. And certainly your admission would be contingent upon hopefully a very successful interview. Our application process, I would imagine, is very similar to other schools that you will be looking at. We also use ACOMIS, which is the centralized application service for DO schools. And we're there every year. It's probably similar to the Common App if you went through that for undergrad. That's where we'll be. And we will require 3 letters of recommendation. We don't have any specific requirements as to who you have submit those. Certainly from your program here would be great resources for you. But again, anyone who can speak to you as a student, as a person, is going to be a good person to ask. Your MCAT score and some other, again, more qualitative factors, clinical experiences you've had. If you can shadow a DO or interact with a DO, that is certainly beneficial. For PCOM, it's not required, but it definitely helps, again, help you understand why this is the path that you want. Any research experiences that you've had, leadership skills, and again, just making sure that you are sharing those experiences with your mentors so that they're as best informed as they can be when writing those letters for you. A couple of factors to consider: you do want to make sure that you apply early. PCOM utilizes a rolling admissions process. We open the application when ACOMIS opens in early May, and we will start the interview process usually in September. So you do want to make sure if you are ready to go that you submit that application. The earlier, the better. Make sure we're reading and following all instructions. Something I like to advise is if you are applying to medical schools, every school might have slightly different timelines, different requirements. I always recommend making a separate email address for all of your med school applications so that things aren't getting lost in the shuffle of shoe ads and things like that. I know I get mine all the time, but sometimes you want to make sure that important stuff has a separate place for it to go. And making sure that you are reading those emails carefully, because again, schools may have different timelines, different requirements, and you just want to make sure you're on top of that. You do want to seek questions and answers from reputable sources. The internet is a wonderful place. It can also be a very scary place when it comes to trying to find advice on med school. So the people who are going to know their process best are the admissions officers. If you have a question about admissions, about the process, I highly recommend you reach out to those people because they are the people who will have the correct information. And that also goes in tandem with taking unqualified advice with a grain of salt. Your uncle who went to medical school 20 years ago may be a wonderful mentor to you and have great experiences and fond memories, but the process may have changed a little bit. So you just want to make sure, again, that you are seeking out the best information that you can from the people who are going to know the information and the process the best. That's really all I have from PCOM. I'm excited to answer some more of your questions, but if you are curious or you want more information from us specifically, please go ahead and scan this QR code. I know Zuri shared this earlier as well, so thank you for that. And this will get you on our mailing list if you want to be invited to PCOM events or just learn more about our program. So thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. And I am passing the mic over to Bill and his wonderful guests.
All right, terrific. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, terrific. My name is Bill King, and I am super excited to be with you today. I am sharing my time with an incredible alumni from our school who is an osteopathic physician who I really wanted you to hear from. So if you kind of see that I'm going through this pretty fast, it's not out of lack of enthusiasm or information for you. It's so that I can get you some really great information from an osteopathic physician. One of the things that's really important to know about VCOM is that we have a very specific mission. So just like my colleagues had mentioned, when you're doing your application, particularly your secondary, look at the mission of all of our institutions. And some of the things that we value are individuals who want to help patients for the right reasons, working with underserved communities, having a global perspective, and working with their community. I did want to give a little bit of a shout out if any of you are a member of the SNMA MAPS chapter at Johns Hopkins. We have an admission scholarship that's a relationship with your institution. So I'll give you my email address at the end, and I would encourage you to email me. I'm not going to take a lot of time here, but if you are a member or plan to join that group and stay a member for a year, we do have a process that will encourage you to apply to us, with a lower expense and so forth. So part of our mission is to attract individuals who want to help people who have disadvantaged areas in medicine, and so we're really excited to have that relationship with Hopkins. I also wanted to mention that we do have 4 campuses. So like my colleagues, we have different campuses in different locations. 160 of the 180 students who are attending our Blacksburg campus are from Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. So I think a lot of you are probably kind of fall into some of those categories, but we have incredible campuses in Spartanburg, South Carolina, Auburn, Alabama, and also in Louisiana. We're the second largest medical school in the Southeast, and we're the first largest in the Southeast, and we're the second largest medical school in the country. Outreach is really super important at our institution. Not only do we have a ton of student organizations that do local outreach, but one of the aspects that we really excel at is our international outreach. About 55 to 60% of our students attend an international or mission trip, whether it's a week-long trip or a month-long trip. And you'll see on this map, the little V's up top in the United States are where our campuses are located, but the M's are where our medical mission locations are. They're permanent locations, so it's a little different than just going for a week and coming back. We take care of the locations in the Dominican Republic, El Salvador, and Honduras. Sports medicine is huge at our institution because we're partnered with large universities, Virginia Tech, Auburn University, Clemson University, and also University of Louisiana, Monroe. And as you learn more about the osteopathic profession, not only will you understand and see that there's a very strong aspect to manual medicine or using your hands to help diagnose and treat, but a very strong function of osteopathic medicine is that structure affects function, and the musculoskeletal system has a very strong basis to overall health. So sports medicine fits perfectly in that area. So if you're interested in sports medicine, certainly look at our institution. Like my colleagues, our residency match rate is great. This year, 2 of our 3 institutions were 100%. One was 99.4%. We had one student who is holding out for their dream specialty and not taking a specialty that they were offered. So we're excited about that. I also am very excited that VCOM has a ranking in US News and World Report that we're in the top 10 for people getting their top choice specialty. So that's super exciting. If you want to see our residency placement rate, the best thing to do is Google VCOM residency. And these are our stats. Actually, these are the stats from last year. We're like 1 up on each one. So we're 3.7 and we're a 5.03 on the MCAT compared to these stats from last year. But, you know, it's important to note that GPAs and MCATs are looked at together. And also, I would encourage you, if you don't fall like right at the average of a school, is to try to get the typical average of these are averages where about 85% of our students fall. And that kind of gives you a really nice idea. We also have a pre-medical master's program. If your GPA is a little bit on the lower side and you need to do a little bit of improvement, we've actually had a couple students from Hopkins who have attended our master's program and then gotten direct linkage into admission to the medical school, which is really super exciting. And this is my email address. My email is bking@vcom.edu. Reach out to me if you have questions at all about our institution. Also, we have some incredible virtual events, including one where we interview, similar to what we're going to do in just a moment, with Dr. Martin to learn more about what osteopathic physicians do, what practice is like, and their advice on medical students. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Ariana Martin, and I have a couple questions for her that I'm going to use to kind of set up before your host opens it up for everyone. Dr. Martin, if you wouldn't mind, would you share the schooling you had before medical school, where you went to medical school, and then where you went for residency? And then I'll come back for your next question.
Okay, we're taking it back. Well, hello, everyone.
Right.
I do want to start off with saying to our host, thank you for this amazing opportunity. It's definitely an honor to stand before you virtually without seeing any faces for the most part, but it's still an honor to just talk about the profession and the specialty that I hold so dear. So again, I'm Dr. Ariana Martin, board certified family physician. I attended Florida A&M University, which is a historically Black university and college in Tallahassee, Florida. I went to VCOM, Virginia College of Osteopathic Medicine, for medical school. And I went to residency at University of Maryland in Baltimore. And I currently work at Johns Hopkins Community Physicians in Odenton, Maryland.
Perfect. And Dr. Martin, would you mind elaborating a little bit on the practice that you're in right now, how it's affiliated with the Hopkins system, and like what is a typical week of work for you as a family physician who is a DO?
Got it. Okay, well, family medicine. I'm a huge advocate for family medicine, as I remind several individuals in various parts of legislation that family medicine is a specialty, as it has been since 1962. The way, you know, I think there's many different colloquialisms that you'll hear about family medicine, you know, the jack of all trades. But I think one way to really sum it up when you think about family medicine, yes, we may be the jack of all trades, master of none, but often better than a master of one. So I chose family medicine because I absolutely loved everything about medicine, and I excelled in all areas of medicine, and there wasn't any other specialty that I can imagine myself doing. Is it a lot? Absolutely, absolutely. But I would do it all over again, primarily because within reason, right? In alignment with the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm, I can essentially do almost everything and anything of my heart desires with appropriate training, of course, right? And no one has a better view about population health like a family physician. So currently I'm family medicine, I own it, right? So kind of cradle to grave, that's the way I see it. I see newborns up to the elderly. I don't limit myself, primarily because I feel like I'm too early in practice. Maybe as I get a little older, I may start to put some hard blocks there, but for the most part, anything and everything I can do, I would essentially try to do it. So a typical work week or work day, well, just kind of back up a little bit. So I've been with JHCP, Johns Hopkins Community Physicians, for 5 years. And one thing that I have noticed, this particular population that I serve, which is in the demographics or caste, so to speak, but the demographics matter in the sense that, there's just, I won't necessarily say a certain expectation, but there's a difference in patient care, and more so patient care involvement and investment in self. But one thing that I found so interesting was that many patients have sought me out because I was a DO. I couldn't believe it. Many patients, I have a wait list, maybe 5 to 6 months. However, many patients, I would say maybe 5 out of 10 new patients is your osteopathic physician. I want to be seen as a whole person, not compartmentalized. And I know I can receive good care. So that in itself has been absolutely remarkable. So with that being said, a typical workday would be, I see around 18 to 19 patients a day, which is pretty intense with the patient population that I have. Medicine has changed quite a bit, and one of my colleagues who have been practicing for some time, made it very clear that the way medicine was 20 years ago is very different from today. Our patients are different. Unfortunately, with the culture, this kind of hustle culture that we have, quick fix, folks, they want quick fixes, right? And that's not how medicine works. And as a family physician, it is our responsibility to advocate for ourselves and our specialty, right? Because oftentimes we are trained and groomed to serve, to give, to fix, right? That's just typically our nature. But at some point, as we're making this transition to focus on wellness, work-life integration, work-life balance for ourselves, that also means advocating for ourselves and reminding our patients, hey, 13 years of education can't be squeezed into 10 minutes. So I would say that would be the most challenging of a typical workday is those patients that come with a long list of medical problems with the expectations of they're all being addressed appropriately.
Perfect. Dr. Martin, my last question for you before it's going to be opened up for everybody to ask questions and so forth is that you are, you did your residency at University of Maryland and you're working at Hopkins. And so those are institutions that are tied to MD schools, yet you went to a DO school and you're an osteopathic trained physician. Are there any areas of how you deliver patient care that's unique because of your DO orientation? And the second part to that, which I think sometimes people don't ask straight out, but are you treated as a DO in kind of an MD environment?
Okay. As far as the first question, well, I'll answer the last question since that's what I remember. So in my work environment, am I treated as a DO in an MD environment? And is that with the thought, are we, as far as patient cares, colleagues, staff?
Sure. Yeah, colleagues, and also, kind of from your perspective of your training, do you approach patients differently? And do your colleagues approach you differently? Or is it all the same? One of the questions in the chat was
it's all the same.
Our presentations, sounded very similar to an MD school. So is it really that similar? So from your perspective of being the practicing physician on our panel, what do you think?
Well, in terms of how I am seen, how I'm approached, is by my colleagues. It's there is no difference in terms of if one was if one is a fly on the wall, they would not know who is a DO versus an MD in terms of just basic interaction, respect, that in that way, so to speak. I often, and this could be, a bias, but I often would explain or describe a DO as like an MD plus. I mean, you can't dispute extra 300 plus hours of education in the musculoskeletal system there. So, we naturally have a greater knowledge base. I would say in general, I get these compliments all the time that from my patients that, and it's very difficult for me to say whether or not it's a DO, MD, as opposed to just being myself. But in light of what we're talking about, I'll say a little bit of the extra DO touch, but I often hear that patients feel that they're seen as a whole person. And that's how I approach medicine. And I believe that's why, for the most part, no physician is perfect. And I strive to be my best and do my best for my patients. But I believe that contributes to a lot of my success, a lot of my high CAP scores, communication, is because I do see my patients as a whole. I would say one thing that would be recognizably different is that my patients know that I don't prescribe medication. So that's something I've often heard. Well, you don't, I want you or I like you because you just don't throw medicines out at me. And not that I don't believe in medicines. As I explained to my patients, they have a place and they're absolutely essential, but they're not first line. And most medications have about 20 plus side effects. And that's a very common, unfortunate practice that I see amongst my MD colleagues, is that patients are taking pills to treat the side effects of pills, and it's just going on and on and on. And we have this ongoing workup. And we have this ongoing workup for unnecessary diagnoses that are typically medication induced. So I would say so just to kind of summarize, that, I would say my patients acknowledge and appreciate my osteopathic education. From what I hear, I am highly recommended, and me being an osteopathic physician, I think if anything increases the excuse me. For kids, the 5-year-olds learning boundaries. If anything, I feel as if the my DO degree is what propels me high in life, so to speak. Yeah. So it doesn't hinder me. It doesn't, especially being an osteopathic family physician in primary care. What my perception is for my patients is that DO is the way to go if you want good holistic care. There's no need for me to prove or anything of that nature.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I know that we want to turn it back over to our host to open it up for questions for students and so forth. And we're really very excited that we have Dr. Aria Martin with us.
Yes, we appreciate all of the overviews of each institution, and also perspective from Dr. Martin on her role as a physician, as an osteopathic physician. That perspective, I'm sure, provides insight that is helpful for our participants and students. It seems that there were some questions put in the chat, and Bill, I think you kind of referred to it, and Dr. Martin spoke to the question of the similarities, the differentiation between the osteopathic and allopathic training and ideologies and approaches. So I don't know if Steve and Danielle, you wanted to necessarily add any thoughts to that before we move into other questions.
I dropped something into the chat, but I think Dr. Martin talked about it from such a great part of her heart that that's the right answer right there.
Awesome, appreciate it. Awesome. So I saw a question particularly about secondaries. I don't know, I'm looking through the chat to see if there's any particular question. But I guess I know we get this question a lot about how secondaries are in the application process, and I don't know if anyone wanted to add some clarity as it pertains to that.
Sure. At our institution, if you apply on the ACOMAS application, first and foremost, I'd want to mention that even though we have 4 campuses, I'd encourage you just to choose one, because we're going to let you rank all 4 campuses, whether you choose 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. So save yourself a little money. On the secondary application, we are going to screen that application. We do look at, kind of the general ballpark that I mentioned before, as far as GPAs and MCATs and things like that. But, we look really more, we don't really look much at the MCAT in that initial stage. We look more at the GPA because we're more of a GPA school than we are an MCAT school. But we also look at geography. So if you have connections with Pennsylvania down to Florida, over to Texas, kind of the, that portion of the United States, if you kind of drew a little cross and look at from Pennsylvania down all the way over to Texas and Missouri and so forth. If you're from those states, you're also going to be given very strong consideration. And then we mentioned those other factors as well. So we do screen for secondaries, maybe about half or maybe a little 60% of people get a secondary application. And then from there, we select who we're going to interview.
I'll just say quickly at PCOM, we do not have a secondary application. So for us, once you submit a COMIS, our deadline is February 1. You have until March 1 to get in what we would call supplemental materials. So for example, if you did not have your letter writers submit letters through a COMIS, we have an application fee specific to PCOM, any outstanding transcripts, all of those materials must be in by March 1. But we do not have a formal secondary application. So we do have custom questions specific to PCOM within ACOMAS, but beyond that, you will not receive any other prompts from us, and everyone will receive an email saying, hey, we got your application from ACOMAS. If you're interested in continuing the process, please just make sure you follow these next steps. So there isn't a screening process beyond that. We just ask everyone, please get everything submitted by February 1.
Oh, and I just want to make a quick note. I think I just realized the first question you asked me, Bill. As far as just in residency and my going to an allopathic residency program, now that's just, since we're going to be transparent, my first choice, which was INOVA, because I remember they were like 3-hour interviews in total. But that was actually my first choice for residency because they had a duly accredited MDDO residency program. And osteopathic medicine is extremely important to me, right? It's definitely something that I am slowly putting back into practice. So with that being said, me going to my second, which was University of Maryland, because osteopathic medicine was important, I did implement some osteopathic teachings during my first year, so I can have it recognized as an osteopathic program. Please don't ask me details. I really don't know. I just wanted to make sure that I held true to the values of osteopathy as much as possible. And I did do some manipulation on colleagues and teachers and filled out some forms, but yes, I wanted to say that. And I did complete, as far as my family medicine certification, I'm board certified. So I took the same family medicine boards that my MD colleagues took. Just wanted to put that out there.
Steve, I think I saw you unmute yourself to address the secondary question before I go ahead and put the rest of the questions to the group.
Max, yes, it's better if I say it than if I try to type it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to comment on the secondary. We offer every applicant, everyone who sends a primary application, the opportunity to submit our supplemental. There are questions in there that go to some of the qualitative aspects of a person's profile, their path to medicine, their interest in our school in particular, in their alignment with our mission and values. It's a place where they can talk a little bit more about their, themselves in advance of perhaps being invited for an interview. So I value that secondary application as a complement to what we collect in the primary application. So everyone's invited to submit one and we send it out pretty much immediately after the primary application becomes complete, the invite to submit the secondary. Thanks.
Bill, were you gonna say anything?
Oh, I was going to mention when for the schools that do have secondary applications, I would encourage you, if you are brought in for an interview, to review your secondary application, because the secondary like the night before and so forth, the secondary application is really kind of a celebration or a opportunity for you to highlight the various things related to that particular institution. If the school has an open interview kind of process like we do at VCOM, our interviewers are going to look at your whole application and they may ask you about it. And you'd be surprised how many times people kind of get confused between how many different secondaries they fill out and what they put on one versus the other. And they may be asked a question about how they answered a question, and you want to be able to respond to that very directly. One of the worst answers is, well, could you tell me what I wrote so I can tell you what I meant? That's kind of not so good. So, be a little careful on that one.
Thank you. I did see another question in the chat, and it says, I guess someone alluded to the timeline for putting for the finalization of or I should say the hard deadline for the application. But this one says, what does the application timeline look like for each school in terms of turnaround once you submit an NACOMAS app and then potentially receive supplemental application interview? So I guess those are technically two different stops in the timeline, but.
Yes, so for PCOM, like I said, the application will open when NACOMAS open, so early May, and we will start sending interview invites usually early September, and we will continue to interview usually through March for the DO program. If you're notified, you are notified via email for our program. If you do not hear from us, which even if your application is complete, you may not hear back from the admissions committee right away. And I ask that you please not panic. This is part of our process. The reason why we continue to review applications throughout the entire cycle is because the admissions committee is determining at that point in time who is most competitive. So they're going to bring folks in for interview in September who they feel at that time is the most competitive, but your application might be more competitive a little bit later in the cycle, January, February, March. And certainly you still want to be available to get that interview. So that's why your application is still being considered. It's still in the pool. So you may hear from PCOM right away, or you may not hear from us until the close of the admission cycle once we've fully concluded. So it's a big window. We ask for everybody's patience. We know that can be the hardest part, is just waiting to hear back about the interview. But that is done to give everybody as much an opportunity as possible to earn that interview seat.
I can certainly comment for VCOM that if you are a competitive applicant and your GPA, your MCAT, other factors really fall in line, and your geography does, you may be called on, pretty quickly. Just as Danielle mentioned, I thought she really answered it beautifully. In our case, you should receive within about 2 weeks after us receiving your ACOMAS an invitation for a secondary. But it could be a few weeks to a couple months before you hear about whether you're eligible for an interview. If you are in doubt, I put my email address. We kind of with different institutions, and all the schools in Maryland are kind of fall under my venue. So if you feel like it's been a little while and you feel like you're a good candidate and you've already filled out your secondary, and you're kind of anxious, just email me and I'll check into it for you and let you know whether you're kind of on hold, or if we're going to pass on you. We would want to let you know that too, because that's important information for you to know as well. But hopefully you'll be a strong candidate and get called up within about 3 weeks of sending in your secondary application, which is possible. But being put on hold, as Danielle mentioned, doesn't necessarily mean that we're not interested in you. It's just that we have only so many interview slots that we can do, and we're on a rolling basis. So there's so many spots, and then so many spots, and so many spots. So we may not get to you right away, but that doesn't mean that we're not super interested in you.
Pretty much the exact same process for NYIT Com as has been described to you. I saw there was one other question I don't think I answered, but for us on the secondary, we ask which campus, which location an applicant prefers as their first choice. And then we ask whether or not they would consider an opportunity at the other campus, the second campus. So it's like a priority and whether you'd be open to thinking about the other choice.
Awesome, thank you. Brittany, you wanted to unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yes, actually, I think I have answers from both VCOM and NYIT, but Miss Danielle, if you happen to know, I know that you also have multiple locations as well. So is it like a similar process as VCOM and NYIT, or how does that process work for depending on the location?
Yeah, for PCOM, it is a little bit different. So if you are interested in applying to all 3 campuses, what you can do is submit one application for PCOM, and our South Georgia campus are on one application, and you can select which of those you're interested in. And PCOM Georgia outside Atlanta, our Sewanee campus, that is a separate application. So what I advise students is really treat them independently of each other, even though PCOM and PCOM South Georgia are on the same app. You could be invited to interview at all 3 campuses. You could be invited to interview of 2 of 3, 1 of 3. Should you be accepted to all 3, which would be great if you applied to all 3, then you have the choice to decide where you'd like to attend medical school. So it's really on the applicant. If you want to apply to all 3, great. You can treat them really as independent applications because they are going to be 3 different admissions committees reviewing your application.
And I wanted to underscore that at VCOM, it's a little bit different. And one isn't better than the other. It's just different, depending on the institution. Only apply on the ACOMAS to 1 and then rank all 4. We will try to give you your very first choice. If we can't, or we feel like you're going to be on hold so long that your likelihood of getting an interview is lower, but your second choice, you would. That's mostly based on geography or on space. And if that's the case, then we may, invite you for your second choice, but you would only be interviewed at 1 institution. However, if you were waitlisted, our other campuses that you had chosen could look at your application. So it's a little bit different for us from that standpoint. So it's a really wonderful question that you're asking, because that helps you to not only how to apply, but also how to respond. And we will let you know which campus you're being considered at. If it's your top choice, which is 90% of the time. And as I mentioned, people from Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia, those students, if they apply to the Virginia campus, almost always get that top choice campus. And depending on other campuses, you can email me, or other states, excuse me, you can email me.
Awesome.
And may I interject?
Sure.
This is really taking me back to when I was applying to medical school, and I do want to mention, I want to state, I understand that this can be very, very overwhelming. What I can say is, please avoid shutting the door for yourself, right? the first thing I want to say is that osteopathic medicine, osteopathic medical school, we are not a second choice. We are not a fallback. We are the best we are the best choice. So especially when it comes to primary care. So with that being stated, osteopathic medicine is the route to go. But also, in addition to that, getting into medical school is difficult. It really, really is. And you don't know if you between the scores and GPAs and the letters, all I can say is put your best foot forward, put it all out there, be honest with yourself. Medicine is something that we go into to help people. It's not anything that we go into to make money, because in the reality of the amount of our investment, our time, loans, is not worth it. This is something that you do with a true innate desire to help all of those, despite socioeconomic and racial backgrounds. We are here to be of service, to help our patients and nurture them through their journey in health. So put it all out there. Don't say no to yourself. Let someone else say no if this is not the time. When I applied to VCOM was the only medical school that I wanted to go to, mainly because a couple of my friends went to VCOM. And I remember with the Katrina victims, Hurricane Katrina, VCOM was one of the very few medical schools, if not the only, that broke through the red tape to help those. And I drove 4 hours to present a research paper at VCOM SNMA chapter, because I wanted to put myself out there. I had a great GPA. I did not have the best MCAT scores. I just didn't. But everything else spoke for itself. I still applied. I said, hey, you know what? They'll tell me no, but I'm not going to stand in my way. And I was waitlisted for VCOM, but I was determined, and they were going to accept me if they knew it or not. Not like a crazy person, but it does sound crazy. Maybe a little bit. I had already put a down payment on my apartment in Blacksburg, Virginia, because I was going to be a part of the 2011 class. And I did. And I remember writing a letter to them saying, hey, if you invest in me, I can promise you'll never regret it. And I would think that they haven't. Being an osteopathic physician has that credential has never kept me from any opportunity. If anything, I believe it opened more doors, especially as far as patient access. So it's a lot. Medicine is a lot, but someone has to do it. So if this is your true heart's desires, your passion, do it.
And I can tell you, as the person who headed up the admissions committee during Dr. Ms. Burgess's application cycle, and seeing her in those 4 years, she is not overstating. Perhaps she is even understating her drive and her enthusiasm and so forth. And that's why she is right now a physician. So if this is something you want to do, think of someone like her as a role model.
Awesome. We really, really appreciate all of the panelists being here and not just providing information, but also giving a lot of food for thought and perspective. Thank you, Dr. Martin, for having that first, person perspective. I think it's very beneficial in helping students understand the path that they're trying to take a lot more. And so I see that Bill put in his email and contact information, and so did Danielle. I'm not sure if Stephen has a contact he would like to provide any of the participants. We appreciate you all for posing great questions and being here this evening. Thank you all for being here, and we hope you have a great rest of your evening. There you go. Great. Stephen put his email in the chat as well, so copy those down. Yes, and that's all for this evening. Thank you. Thank you.